Welcome, welcome, welcome. Here. Welcome as people are joining in. Thank you so much for joining. As people are joining in, just know that we are here on Zoom, we are live on YouTube, and we have our community, throughout the social media platforms. So thank you so much for joining. First of all, my name is Mentor. That's my name, not my title. I am a movement building architect at Ashoka, and I'm really excited to be here with you all. I'm going to be your moderator through this experience. And I'm just very glad that we get to share some time together in this virtual world that we're living in. And also this opportunity that we bring together Ashoka and in partnership with Trinity Church Wall Street. So we're really excited for this. As we're joining here, feel free to turn on your cameras or off your cameras, however you feel comfortable. We'd love to see you though, so because we want to have this as interactive as possible. And just a quick introduction from this. The purpose of this session is for everybody to learn more about all the ins and outs of this Changemaking Masterclass that we're offering, Ashoka together in partnership with Trinity Church Wall Street. This is going to be designed for faith-inspired changemakers. And in this session, we're going to go through ins and outs of that. What is this Changemaking Masterclass? What questions do you have for it? And we can explore, and see where this is taking us. If you have any questions or any comments or anything that comes throughout this experience, please feel free to use the chat, okay? The chat is our friend here. And we can use the chat to just write the questions down, and then in the end, we will have more of an open Q&A, but don't hold that question from the beginning all the way to the end. Just write it in the chat, and then we can also address it there. So let's use the chat together. We can also use the reactions if we feel like we're up for it. You can do these type of reaction things like a heart, or if something resonates with you, feel free to use that. Yeah, so we can go through this together. And, we so far got around 80 applications for the Changemaking Masterclass from all over the world. We got from Philippines to US, to Italy, to Nigeria, to India. We got through all of these places. We're getting participants, and it's truly amazing. We got people who are thinking of creating change, or asking the question like, oh, how do I best engage my community right now in this to respond to all these problems that we're facing as humanity? How do I best show up to my own community here as a faith community? How do I create change in my culture so that we are adapting to this world that is constantly changing? And also people, are hoping to get out of this, some support, some feedback, some community members, and also mostly some examples on how to intentionally root the strategy in social justice work so that you can have more and more impact. So this is pretty much what we're hearing from all the applications, and much more, and we'll go more into details for this. I have my team here with me. And my team is going to introduce themselves as they go to present a little bit more of the structure and the things that we're going to talk about. But pretty much there's 3 things we're going to go through. The first thing is we're going to see the overview of what this is about, what are some of the goals, and we're going to do that. Anne is going to do that. Then afterwards, we're going to look at some archetypes of who is applying here, what are some of the people that are showing up for this, and we're going to try to understand and pick some examples. And then we're going to go into the content. How are we planning to facilitate this masterclass, and what are some of the things that we want to dive deeper more into? And in the end, is the Q&A. Okay, does that sound good, everybody? Awesome. Wonderful. Perfect. Thank you so much. So with that, I'll pass it off to Anne. Anne?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ann Evans and part of the leadership group of Ashoka. And I'm co-leading our work in faith and change making. So it's super exciting to me to have so many faith-inspired change makers coming to explore with us how change making can be a powerful force in their work and their lives and their communities. If you're not familiar with Ashoka, for the last 40 years, we have been supporting the world's leading social entrepreneurs to do good better and have mastered the art and the science of creating impactful change. At Ashoka, we envision a world where everyone is a change maker. And so we see it possible for everyone to contribute to lasting and positive change in wonderful, creative ways. And we can see how this helps people thrive in a world of explosive change. So if I take just a moment to share a little bit of my story, in the 10 plus years I've been at Ashoka, one of the things that's been very important to me has been the fact that I have found change making to be very aligned with my own personal faith. And I realized really that my motivation for the work that I do is really coming from that faith. And I know that many of you share a common perspective on this. So I was sitting in one of my first meetings at Ashoka with Bill Drayton, our founder, and he said, and I quote here, "Change making is love and respect in action for the good of all." And I was blown away. I'd never heard such words spoken in a business meeting. And so it was then that I knew that I was in the right place. So what do we hope to accomplish with the Masterclass? Well, the first thing is we want to support faith-inspired change makers by sharing the lessons from the Ashoka Fellows. Through these 40 years of Ashoka's existence, we have elected over 4,000 Ashoka Fellows in more than 95 countries. And these are the people who are leading social entrepreneurs. They are really solving society's biggest challenges. And many of them, it turns out, are motivated by their personal faith. When we do a survey and ask them, name a book that has truly influenced your life, 70% of them mention either the Bible or the Quran. And so this is a profoundly important fact in the lives of many of these Ashoka Fellows. And I want to give you just a few examples. And my colleague Abby will also put the links to their organizations in the chat so that you have a chance to explore them further. Just to name a few, Ashoka Fellow Ibu Patel founded and runs an organization called the Interfaith Youth Corps, which is creating the next generation of interfaith leaders on campuses and beyond campuses in the United States. Sarah Zouak, who's an Ashoka Fellow in France, has created a thing called La Lab, which is a feminist and anti-racist association whose goal is to make voices heard and to defend the rights of the Muslim women who are experiencing sexist or racist and Islamophobic oppression. So their goal is to bring about a paradigm shift in the French sort of anti-discrimination political system. And they seek to shape a world in which women can freely choose their own path to emancipation. Another fellow, Ashoka Jen Bailey, started a thing called the Faith Matters Network to catalyze the personal and social change of those people who are really the community organizers, the faith leaders and activists, and to provide them with the kind of resources for connection, for sustainability of their spiritual well-being, and to accompany them in their journey. And she calls it healing the healers by creating the safe spaces in which that kind of work can occur. So from these many Ashoka Fellows across a wide range of faiths, we have been able to distill some key principles for making change happen. And we will share these principles with you through the Masterclass, provide you with examples and tools, and also give you a chance to practice using them. So a second goal that we have for the Masterclass is to build a community and an ecosystem of support for faith-inspired change makers from across faith traditions and based on shared values. One of the things that we understand is that this is very lonely work for many of you. You might be the only voice in the organization where you work, or one of just a few who thinks that things need to change. You might be far ahead and seeing what change is needed, and you may need to have a focus and help on figuring out what are the barriers to start with, to tear down, and to bring a new way to see this work that you're doing. Or it could be that you're farther ahead in your work and you want to just maximize the impact of the work that you're undertaking. All these are possible, but having peers with whom you can go on this journey together will strengthen you. And we believe also that there's much to be learned from the interfaith experience, where differences in tradition will help us have fresh insights into the work that we're each doing. So one of the things that comes with this masterclass is a set of values. We believe that each person is deserving of love and respect. And so we come to the work of change making with respect for each other's beliefs and with an openness to learn. So as Ashoka talks about in Everyone, a change maker world, a world where everyone is powerful and where we treat each person with love and respect, knowing that they're as valuable as we are. These are the values that we ask that you bring to the Changemaking Masterclass, and we invite you to apply and be part of it if you share those values. So the narrative that's told by the press is another area in which we hope to make some progress. So a third goal that we have is to shift the public narrative about what is happening in the faith sector. And that narrative today is one of decline and despair, of individual failings and corruption in the religious institution world. But this narrative fails to recognize that this is a time of emergence among faith communities. It's just a time of relearning and redesign for faith communities the way it is for many other kinds of institutions who are struggling to deal with the explosive change that we see in our world today. So just as schools and corporations are having to rethink what they're doing in the face of this broadening of individual agency and the amazing access to information that everyone has, so too are seminaries and faith communities and social service agencies going through the same thing. So what's often missed, I think, in the current narrative is that those of us in the faith world have an advantage. Our first principles that we fall back on are love and caring and respect for everyone. And so while we have a lot of challenges in this regard, we are a step ahead of the game because those are the very principles that are so essential to being an effective change maker. So we believe we can build a new narrative together. One observation a colleague just made with me this morning was that at the Skoll World Forum for Social Entrepreneurs, which just happened in online and out of the Skoll organization based in London last week, the word faith was not in the conversation. Now, I believe that a year from now it will be, because I'm seeing all the emergence of all the wonderful ideas for change that are coming from people who are faith-led. And I believe that we have the power together to change that kind of conversation. So I would like to tell you what we see as a faith-inspired change maker. We're seeing really three types. One is a spiritual innovator who creates new forms of spiritual community, maybe new ways of being faithful, being in community together as spiritual beings. Another is social entrepreneurs or innovators who are led by their faith to build solutions to social issues, but for the good of everyone. And thirdly, institutional entrepreneurs who are creating the approaches for living a faith-led life. And those approaches are based in love and respect for everyone across the generations, young people, old people, everyone. So my colleague, Abby Richardson, is going to share some examples of the kind of innovators we're seeing. Abby.
Yeah, actually, my name is Kenny because Abby had to be gone for just a second.
Okay.
But let me introduce myself as we put these slides up to just show you a brief picture. So I'm Kenny Clute. I'm based in Madrid, Spain, actually. And it is 6:15 in the afternoon here, so the light is a little different. I work for Ashoka in Europe. I lead a program called Hello Europe, which is our Ashoka's migration global initiative, and do some other stuff with Ashoka. I'm also a pastor. I worked for a pastor for a while in the States, so I'm really, really excited about this initiative. Very briefly, Anne introduced those three types of faith-based or faith-inspired change makers, and we just wanted to give you three examples of what these people, what are examples or what some of these change makers could look like. So I think Mentor is going to put the slides up. There we go. Boom. And these are fairly fictional people, but based on real people. So for example, for this idea of a spiritual innovator, right? Who's someone who's creating new forms of spiritual community and new ways of being faithful. We're thinking of someone like Joseph Nguyen, who's 34. He's based in Manila, Philippines, comes from kind of a Christian, quasi-evangelical background, and his initiative is around priests and poets. So he's an author and a poet by trade. He writes about social issues from a faith perspective. He has strong ties to this his evangelical community, and he leads a citywide club of poet activists. So he named this Priests and Poets as a way for leaders of both communities, both priests and poets, to gather together to collaborate for the common good. And, you know, for example, maybe he's in a place where he's seeking to build partnerships between group members and develop new opportunities, maybe scale his initiative to other cities, etc. So that's just one picture. And so let's go to the next one. Another example could be Fatima Sabri, who's what we would call a social entrepreneur, right? And the way we define this was someone who, led by their faith, are building solutions to social issues for the good of all. In her case, she's 18, based in Paris, France, a young Muslim woman who grew up in Paris, and she's troubled by the Islamophobia that she's seen in her community. She saw a lack of discussion across differences as one of the roots of the problem of where this Islamophobia is coming from. So she found Faith Links, a media website to promote acceptance and understanding across faiths. You know, she empowers other Muslim women to kind of express their faith, express how they're seeing the problem, and kind of create some human connections. And in her case, she'd be joining the masterclass perhaps because she's wanting to better understand the impact her work is having on the community, and potentially scale up to reach to make this a global initiative. Let's go to the last one. Yeah, so Ravi David Gold, and we call this an institutional entrepreneur who creating new opportunities or new approaches to living a faith-led life based in love and respect for everyone across generations. So in his case, he's 34. All of these are very young entrepreneurs in this case, but they're not always so young. Based in New York City, you know, he's been teaching in a Jewish ministry for 23 years. That would make him really young when he started teaching, I just realized, but let's just bear with me on this. He's interested in adapting faith institutions, or like recreating them to better meet the demands of changing religious landscape in the US. And so, you know, the work that he's doing is seeking to redefine the synagogue as a house of worship and a center for social change. You know, and he looks at this masterclass as something to help him understand, to help him grasp other ways of doing this, to establish and expand his accelerator network to other synagogues in the city. So again, these are just 3 examples. They're actually based on real people, but kind of fictional, just to give you a picture of the kind of social entrepreneurs, the kind of change makers that we're seeing that could be interested in this masterclass. And let me pass it back to you.
Thanks, Kenny. So we've planned 4 sessions, and as you know, the sessions will occur on consecutive Wednesdays in May, and we will remind everybody of the time zones that those represent for the various time zones around the world where we're going to be having participants. So we've planned these 4 integrated sessions, which is why we want everyone to attend all of them, because they do build on each other, they depend on each other. And so we're going to give you now a quick overview of the 4 sessions and what each will cover. In session 1, we're going to take a look at how the world is changing, and what this really means for our leadership. And we'll be exploring the key principles of change making that a constant changing world really requires of us, and give us a chance to practice them. We'll be using breakout rooms and one-on-one exercises, as well as examples from the Ashoka Fellows, and we'll dig into the principles that are the really key grounding principles of change making. And they are cognitive empathy, fluid teamwork, we'll explain what all these mean, collaborative and distributed leadership, and the creative change making that includes the system thinking necessary to build solutions for the challenges that we are facing. So session 2 will address the key issue of empowering others as change makers. What we've seen from the Ashoka Fellows is that they learned so much because they're embedded in the situation where this problem is occurring. Many of them, in fact, have experienced the problem that they're facing and trying to solve. And so what they find is that the people who are experiencing the problem, if empowered, become the best drivers of the solution. And who better than the people who are experiencing the problem to be motivated to solve it? So empowering others is really the critical tool that we will be exploring in session 2. We're going to use young people as the vehicle for exploring empowerment, because everyone has a young person in their life that's important to them, whether it's your own children, your grandchildren, your niece, your nephew, your next door neighbor's child. Everyone knows a young person that they care about. And so as we think about those young people, the people perhaps in our faith communities, the young people in our faith communities, we will be looking at ways to empower them, holding breakout groups to discuss our ideas together. And we'll focus our attention on how together can we create more faith-inspired change makers. And by doing so, engender the kind of excitement for faith community that young people who are seeking meaning in their lives might be drawn to. So we're going to do that together. And as we build the muscle for working with our young people, we're also building the muscle that will help us in empowering anyone to be part of our effort. And so we see this as a really critical linchpin in the work of so many of the people that we're seeing sign up as participants. So I'm going to turn it over to Kenny to talk about the next 2 sessions.
Yeah, and I'll be brief because we're really wanting to get some questions and see how you feel about it. But the next 2 sessions, we've gone through kind of what are the characteristics of a change maker, how to empower certain groups, particularly looking at youth. In the 3rd session, it's titled "How Might We?" And it's a lot about collaborative change making. So we're going to go from kind of the individual, from the contribution to the collaboration, and explore what does collaborative work look like amongst change makers, and together identify and analyze some key issues that faith communities are facing or faith communities are choosing to engage in, and work on some particular tools around collaboration and teamwork to sort of practice this collaborative change-making mechanism. So just as 2 examples, there's 2 key tools we're going to introduce here that you may not be familiar with, or you may be familiar with, but we're going to explore them a bit. One is Theory U, which is a bit of a theory about co-creation, how co-creation happens, letting go, beginning to work together with others, creating new things. It's a pretty innovative methodology that comes from MIT by a guy named Otto Scharmer. Feel free to check it out even beforehand, but this will be one of the tools. And the other tools, we're going to use some of the design thinking tools, which many of you are probably familiar with and have used in different cases, but kind of applying this. How do these apply, or how are they used often in social innovation and change-making environments? The end result is something I'm really looking forward to actually from this, because as we work as groups, and again, remember, a lot of these, or most people are going to be working with folks that they've never met before, that probably come from a different faith tradition, that are seeing things at different angles. So just those relationships are something to look forward to. But also we're going to build some canvases that kind of show what are some of the main issues that we're dealing with, who are the main people that are involved, what are the barriers, who are the stakeholders, and end up articulating what we call these "how might we" prophetic imagination questions. So this is the question we're asking as faith communities, as members of our communities: how might we, and we'll fill that into how might we change a particular aspect that we're hoping to aim. So that's session 3, which is the how might we question and collaborative framework. And then in the final session, we're going to talk a little more about our changemaker journey, how we've gotten to where we've gotten, what are some of the key aspects, the key milestones, the key experiences that have led us there. This is something we found with our work with social entrepreneurs all around the world that's key, is building on kind of the shoulders of the people that you've engaged with and experiences that are deep within. So we'll be exploring that, and also introduce some tools around systems change. And again, this is another paradigm that's pretty common in the social innovation sector. And it's thinking not just as the problem that you're trying to address or the people that you're trying to help, but what is the system involved? Who are the different pieces? What roles do they each have? And what is the contribution that your particular community or initiative is making? And we look into what we call the 5 R's, which are, what are the results related to that? What are the roles that are playing out in the system? What are the relationships, the rules, the resources? Again, this is a tool that's available, it's used. We're going to explore that a little more together. And hopefully through that, participants will kind of be able to draw a bit of a picture of where they are in the system, what are some of the changes that are happening? What are some of the places where they can explore? And we'll talk about next steps. What do you do with all this? Okay, I've learned that I'm a change maker. I've figured out some of the skills. I've touched on some of these tools. Well, what do I take home with me? What do I do with that? And in both of these sessions, we'll have quite a bit of time of folks, participants connecting with each other and building stuff on each other, working on case studies, etc., to kind of just get a feel of what this is like, and also to take tools home. So we're hoping, immediately after the session, you can go back to your church, to your synagogue, to your mosque, to your community, to your living room with your family. Maybe that's the only place you're allowed to go in some context, and say, hey, let's work on some of these tools. Let's apply them. Let's practice them. That's sort of the objective in all of these things. So maybe I'll stop there. Also, in this last session, just before I end, we'll be reminding people and asking those who are interested to potentially apply to a next phase of what we're doing, which we'll call the Changemakers Lab. I don't think we're going to get a lot into this now, but this will be another phase where we can go deeper with some of the initiatives that'll be selected for that and that are interested in going deeper. So I think I'll stop there. Anne, or mentor, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Anne. I know this is a lot of information, but we'd love to open up for questions. One of the things that I'd like to share, and this is personal to me, but when I heard of Ashoka as a student, and what really drew me into pursuing Ashoka as my career, was I got to meet the founder, Bill Drayton, and I explained to him I was running a small nonprofit. And I explained to him, I said, hey, this is what I'm doing, and all these excited student type of things. And he said, look, you can give a person a fish, you can teach how to fish, or you can change the fishing industry. If you're a social entrepreneur, he said, you work more on changing the fishing industry. And to me, that blew my mind, literally, because I never saw impact into these different levels. And what I realize is that if we're going to create systematic change and framework change and build movements, we cannot do it in silos. We have to collaborate. We have to know each other. We have to lift each other up. So one of the most critical values that change makers do is lift one another, know one another, and when that line combines, it shines really bright. So I just wanted to share that with you all, because that was a big moment for me, and part of this masterclass is around that. So I'll open up for questions. I'll look for the chat if there has been any questions there, but please feel free to write in the chat or unmute yourself to maybe add a question or a comment. So one question that we have is, and maybe Anne, this is for you.
Okay.
And the question is, how did this partnership between Ashoka and Trinity Street Waltzers come together?
Well, about a year ago, Rob Garris is here, and I participated in a strategy session that was supposed to have been in person, and it was the first, I think, week-long strategy session I ever attended online, and when everything fell apart in March. But it was a fantastic session, and out of that, we began a conversation about the concept of everyone a change maker and how powerful that could be when brought into the world of faith. And out of that, we continued this discussion and formulated the idea for this masterclass and the subsequent lab that we mentioned, and as an idea to build a team of people who are committed to this work and who want to work together across the traditional boundaries of faith tradition or place to really do something important together, to really open up a new story and to build on and support the emergence of these new ideas of how to be faithful and also how to be a faith-inspired change maker in the world.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that, And thank you for that. Do participants have to have their own organization to attend? Maybe Anne, I'll throw this at you or to Kenny.
Sure. Yeah. Well, no, you don't have to have your own organization, but what you do have to have is an idea for a change that you think needs to happen. And so we want to be sure that if you come to the masterclass, you have a change in mind and you've taken some concrete steps to see that it's happening. So we ask in our application for people to describe that change that they care so passionately about, and to describe also some of the steps that they've taken. And that way we are able to assemble a community of peers, all of whom are really motivated to make something happen and who will be really able to sustain and support one another.
Wonderful. And maybe we'll get one more very quick, and then we can open up if anybody wants to share anything. If not, we'll just end it with that. But somebody's asking, is there an age limit? And then there's another one here. Do the projects have to be nonprofit or looking to be faith-based? Spencer is asking as well.
Yeah, so one of the things we don't prescribe what the business model has to be. We are very flexible about that. We are looking for people to either be faith-based or faith-inspired. So, because that's part of what we're trying to do with the peer group, and really wanting to have people feel that they are in the company of people who share a common set of values and who come to this work with the shared knowledge that love is the answer. And we think that's what's most important. And we know that even cutting across all the faith traditions, that is the case. And so that's really what we're looking for. And we're also, I think this is part of what's interesting about this conversation, is that is not something one hears a lot about in just common vernacular conversation, is why people are doing the work that they're doing. And I think what we hope to do is normalize that. And so I think by working together, having that conversation in a place where it's very safe to have that conversation, we believe that we're going to strengthen each other for the work of also going out more into the world to have that conversation. And I think that will change over time. It will change the narrative that's out there in the world abroad, as well as not just the narrative in our own rooms. So.
Thank you for that question, Spencer. Any final comments, reflections before we end this? Speak or hold your truth, or whatever is the saying in that. Okay, so thank you everybody so much for this. Please do stay in touch with us. I'm going to share here my personal email in case you don't have it, but if you have any questions or you'd like to explore more or chat more how we can collaborate, me, Kenny, Anne, or Abby, we're all ready to jump in and explore ways that we can collaborate. We are here for the long haul. This is not a sprint, this is a marathon. And together we can really bring more love, much needed love in this society. And yeah, so let's collaborate, let's work together. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the week, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
And please feel free also to share. We have information we're putting in the chat about the dates, the times, the other things that are details that you might need to pass on to someone who's interested. So just as a quick reminder, our final deadline for applications is April 25th, which is this coming Sunday. And we look forward to bringing in even more people. So if you think of anyone who you think might be interested, please pass the word along. Thank you so much. And I don't know, Mentor, if you had a page to share that showed I think the time zones. We have had a little bit of, we want to make sure our friends in the Philippines know that it will be midnight for them. Any other final questions? Is there a limit? Oh, I see that Spencer's asked, is there a limit? We do not, we're very fortunate, because this is one of the blessings of COVID, is that, by doing this virtually, we are not space limited. And we have designed this approach to the masterclass in such a way that it is very flexible depending on the number of people. So if we go over 100 people, that is not a problem. We're right now, we expect that we probably will, based on the number that we have so far and the rate at which they're coming in. So, but no, there's no limit. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
Here you see the time zones across the different places where we already have applicants. So we want to, for those observing us online, we also want to be sure to draw their attention to the realities. When we first designed this, we didn't anticipate quite as much interest from the East, but we are thrilled by it and looking forward to having a wonderful mix of people in this group. So thank you all.
Wonderful.
We appreciate very much your being here and observing this, and look forward to seeing you in May.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful day.